Greetings and welcome as AGM Theater Company presents I Remember Harlem When.
So many of my Black sisters, brothers, uncles, aunts, mothers, fathers sang this song for countless generations. The chariots came in the form of buses, trains, riverboats, broken down cars and trucks, and in some cases, human legs. These chariots transported millions of hopeful souls to the promised land, known as Harlem. My road to Harlem was made possible because my mother's sister and her husband had made the leap of faith in the early 1940s. They came with little money, but a lot of hope for a better life. They came with a sense of survival and a sense that they could make it no matter what. They had to learn the language of the new and exciting social jungle known as Harlem. The names of these brave souls were Clarence Mitchell and Adrian Graham Mitchell. Both came from large Southern families who couldn't understand why they wanted to leave the safe environment and go off into a land filled with unknown dangers. Clarence and Adrian believed that you must work hard to get ahead. And they worked hard, made friends, and created a stable family unit. They educated and raised their children and became productive role models in their community. Could they have achieved all these accomplishments if they had lived somewhere else beside Harlem? What made these accomplishments unique to Harlem? Unique to Harlem because Harlem demanded your best effort to show up at work at 6 a.m., no matter how cold or hot, or the walk home from work at 2 a.m. through the project's playground. Harlem required that you learn how to hustle so you could earn the extra needed for private schools. Harlem required that you learn how to remember your lessons on racism from the Deep South. Up North did not mean that racism no longer existed. Harlem required you to learn how to select and keep true friends close and others at bay. Harlem allowed and required you to accept the culture of the city and not judge the unusual. Harlem required you to embrace your history and to apprentice your promised future. Clarence and Adrian could have made it anywhere, but they decided to climb the highest mountain, Harlem, dedicated to my beloved aunt and uncle, who changed my life by introducing me to the world of Harlem and started my world of travel and adventure.
The New Haven train makes its first stop in New York City at the 125th Street station in Harlem. And that is where I found myself on a summer day in 1966. Living in Connecticut at the time, I decided to move to New York. I walked down the steps of the station to 125th Street, and my lasting memory from the street was a large church on the northwest corner of 125th Street and Park Avenue that was so high up, it seemed to overlook the train station itself. Here I was, in the center of African American life in the city, and the home of such literary giants as James Baldwin, Langston Hughes, Countee Cullen, Zora Neale Hurston, and several other writers whose work I would eventually get to know. Like so many others of my generation, I had gone through high school and college without learning anything about the works of African American writers who helped to define our history. The decade in which I arrived in Harlem would later become known historically as the 60s, most notably because of the changes that would later define it. The winds of change were in the air, and nobody knew what direction they would take, toward greater freedom for African Americans or toward a continuation of the status quo. So here I was, walking along 125th Street, passing a few stores and storefront churches, something that was new to me. I stopped at a street vendor, bought a hot dog, and continued along 125th Street, listening to the rhythms of the street. I became so engrossed in my surroundings that I almost forgot I had a very important decision to make. I had to find some place to live. A friend had suggested the YMCA on 135th Street, so I made my way there. The Y was an interesting place to live because of the many people you met there. Some were students, others were just working people, while still others were international travelers. I met an Ethiopian student from Addis Ababa there, and we had long talks about his country where I had spent 2 years teaching high school. Nearby the Y were a number of places of interest. The Schomburg Library was in the same block as the Y, one of the largest collections of works on Black people in the world. I became a member of the Harlem Writers Guild, which was led by Rosa Guy, a prominent Black writer of children's books. There was Small's Paradise. Good music and good food was around the corner. And Wells, the home of chicken and waffles, was just down 7th Avenue. Smaller restaurants or dives in the neighborhood were all selling home cooking. Ah, yes, Harlem was and is a very exciting place.
Son, come dance with me. They playing jump music. And the mammoth woman would wear him out, dancing to these 15-minute songs, fueled by that over Overproof firewater they'd be drinking. And the need to stomp, not at the Savoy where the conch-headed Hicks lindied and bucked for tourists, fingering the edge of blank coins, but at the Rennie, where Don Wilson and his stalwarts would lay down an irrepressible rhythm, hip spinning, leg twirling, singing a West Indian muddled into Spanish, and these thick, heavy women would rise behind mounds of fried chicken, rice and peas, warm pots of fragrant steaming greens, up to meet the music's lusted throated call, and grab him, this thin man, and dance the life strong, fierce, out of and into him.
My two brothers and I spent long weekends and school holidays at Grandma's apartment on 116th Street in Harlem. Oh boy, we lived on the outskirts of Queens. When the lights went out there, it meant lights out. Harlem lights were on 24/7. Something was always going on. People went to work and opened businesses, met with friends at all times of the night and day, and the neighborhood had a cacophony of different sounds, depending on the time of day. However, the best sound was the laughter of people clearly comfortable in their environment. In the suburbs, you could walk a block and not see anyone. But in Harlem, there were people greeting each other everywhere. The buildings were huge to us. So many bedrooms in each apartment, and we were able to hide all over the place. Some of the stores and shops were owned and operated by Black people. Not so in Queens, and we noticed right away. Of course, the barbershop and beauty parlors there were Black owned, but virtually everything else was not. Now, living in a mixed neighborhood was okay, but seeing and feeling something different was inspiring. There was always a proper place for you in the 50s in Queens. In Harlem, the ease of movement was even felt by the young. One day, as we stood outside Grandma's building, my brothers noticed a fence was pulled across the front of the store on the corner. What? Never saw this before. So they commenced to climb it. Grandma's hand stood straight up. She couldn't believe it. Get your butts down from there. As the fence rattled and the neighbors laughed, my brothers scrambled down, incredulous as to what the problem was. Oh well. And needless to say, Goody Two Shoes was standing there all innocent, getting a lolly. Actually, I was just waiting on my turn to climb the fence. Life perked along at a nice pace every day. For a child, it seemed to me that everyone was dressed to the nines every day in Harlem. People always seemed to be stepping out. People did not walk around with rollers in their hair. Hair wasn't ready, you weren't outside. There was a crease in your pants. The iron was hot and always in motion. Y'all remember that? Where were you going all wrinkled up? Needless to say, the dry cleaners were cleaning up in those days. By the way, gentlemen of those times wore hats, and they always tipped saying to the ladies. Hats were tipped in Queens too, if you ever saw anyone. In Queens, people went to work, returned late, and that was that. Weekends were always lively. So many Harlem venues with some of the best entertainment of the time. Neighborhoods were abuzz with the talk about anticipated evenings events. There were small neighborhood clubs and big events sponsored by memberships in different organizations. I cannot forget the house parties that took place too. Some were rent parties to help one's neighbor, if need be. Good times were had by all. My brothers and I, we'd hang out the window at Grandma's and enjoy the revelry and being up late at night, a treat. Now, Sunday morning was another story. All quiet on the Harlem front, or better be. Better not catch your ankle out there in the morning in a condition. People were heading to church, dressed in their finery, hats and all. And you standing there all disreputable and stuff. Harlem folk had different accents depending on where they migrated from. We were not used to that, but recognized the differences right away. It was church to us until we heard it differently. You know, children sit on the floor pretending to play with something. However, they are all ears. This is some of what I heard. Your ankle will never get over the embarrassment and neighborhood gossip. Forget calling the po-po, not necessary. You and your family, including the children, will be the weekly fodder, and that will be that. Expect your family to be very upset with you. It may take some time before you can straighten that out and all is well again. One day, Grandpa took my brothers fishing in Central Park. Don't know why he didn't take me. I like fishing. But anyway, between you and I, me and Grandma wasn't doing anything until she put her number in, period. We'll go from there. We went to the store, picked up some few things for dinner, after Grandma greeted and was greeted by everyone out there on 116th Street. Now, I have to think about telling this next part. Ladies never tell their age, and some things you say will reveal it. But hey, I'm still here and we'll get over it. I rode a trolley. Holy moly, what's this? Wires were in the air hanging overhead. There were no wires in Queens. Clang, clang, bing, bong, woven seats. Strange turns as it changed from one wire to another. It was really something. Enjoyed it like it was an amusement ride. Grandma met a neighbor who said maybe we should go to the Apollo for a matinee. We did, and I couldn't believe it. We saw the Platters. Oh my God. At home, the Platters album played all the time. I knew The Great Pretender by heart. I couldn't believe it. Although I was small, I had a ball. Never been to a concert like that before. It was the best. When Grandpa returned with my brothers, they were all excited about the fish they caught and threw back, as you weren't allowed to keep fish out of Central Park. They walked through the park and climbed huge rocks and trees, had a ball, they said. They asked me what we did, and I said, we went to the Apollo and saw the Platters. Ha! They fell off the couch, gobsmacked, wanted to know everything, and I had a ball telling them. It was a great day for all. Sunday was usually our last day in Harlem, and we enjoyed the quietness that settles in after church and the wonderful neighborhood aromas as Sunday dinners were cooking everywhere. Everyone seemed to eat around the same time, and you could vaguely hear televisions or radios playing as Harlem settled down, readying for the week ahead, and we headed home to Queens.
I remember Harlem when we sang doo-wop in the hallways of 75 LaSalle Street in the Grand Street Project, so we can hear our harmonies better. Why do birds sing so gay? Lovers await the break of day. Why do they fall in love? I remember Harlem when the metallic squeal of steel wheels from the electric streetcar skirted steel tracks along 8th Avenue, and the electric lines overhead crackled. I remember Harlem when I loved sitting in the fold-up jump seat without a seatbelt in the back of the yellow checkered cabs. I remember Harlem when I saw little Stevie Wonder sing Fingertips at the Apollo's Motortown Review. He came on the stage after Marvin Gaye and was dressed in an iridescent sharkskin suit, white shirt, black tie, and wore jet black sunglasses. Had a Caesar's haircut, and his shoes were black and shined brightly all the way to the balcony where I sat. After he played the intro on the bongos, He stood right next to the edge of center stage. When he started playing his harmonica and got happy, I just knew he would fall off the stage, but he never did. Everybody say, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I remember Harlem when the only bar in your home was the one that secured the police lock on your door. I remember Harlem when you could look into the department store on 125th Street through unbarred windows or gates. I remember Harlem when I could look out my unbarred window onto 8th Avenue. I remember Harlem when 8th Avenue was called 8th Avenue. Hey, I remember Harlem when I went to sleep listening to Motown hits coming up from the Mambo's Bar jukebox below our apartment on 8th Avenue. I remember one night, woo! I looked down from my apartment window on the corner of 8th Avenue and 137th Street through the sunroof top of a blue Cadillac Eldorado pimpmobile with gangster white walls and a TV antenna in the back, and saw a pimp sprawled asleep on his white shag carpeted rear seat, dressed in a bright yellow pimp suit. I realized that was his home. I remember Harlem when late at night, after the Mambo Bar had closed for business, two white policemen met a black man at the entrance who handed him a stuffed brown paper bag. I remember Harlem when New York City subway tokens were 10 cents. And when I didn't have a token or money one day, I asked the policeman if he would help me, and he did. Officer Friendly seemed friendly back then when I remember Harlem. Hey, I remember Harlem when my mama caught me and Nia in the plastic-covered living room pull-out sofa that was my bed. We had fallen asleep after having had sex, and she came home from work earlier than I had planned. Hey, I remember Harlem when I used to pick up my pop's clean and starched white shirt from the Chinese laundromat across 8th Avenue, and the nice owner saying, "No tiki, no laundry." One day when I had forgotten the claim ticket, it wasn't a racial slur. I remember Harlem when my pops would take me to Obi's restaurant on 135th Street to sit down at the counter to eat waffles and fried chicken some Sunday morning. I remember Harlem when he'd take me to buy a hot dog with mustard and sauerkraut chock full of nuts, and afterwards go listen to Malcolm speak across the street at the corner of 125th Street and 7th Avenue. I remember Harlem when I had to wait in a line that circled the Lowe's Victoria Theater around the block to go see Sweet Sweetback's badass song. I remember Harlem when I cut my first 45 single at the Playland Penny Arcade recording booth next to the Apollo Theater. Hey, I remember Harlem when you bought a pack of sweaters from the Bly shop, custom-made pants from Mr. Tony's, and wore alligator shoes. I remember Harlem when heroin had everybody nodding on the street corners and stoops. Remember Harlem when methadone was supposed to be the solution to heroin. I remember Harlem when the young lords fought to use acupuncture as a solution to heroin and methadone. I remember Harlem when Dr. Ben taught at Harlem Prep on 8th Avenue that each one should teach one. Hey, I remember Harlem when Herman Helicopter jumped and put a 50-cent piece on the top of the backboard in the playground on 135th Street behind Harlem Hospital, and no one else could jump that high to get it. I remember Harlem when we played tag and skellies and stickball in the street. Remember Harlem when you could get your shoe shine on the sidewalk. I remember Harlem when I used to buy the Sunday Daily News on Saturday night after 10 p.m. and it included the funnies. I remember Harlem when I lived with my father, mother, aunt, grandmother, and 3 first cousins together in a 3-room, 1-bathroom railroad apartment on 8th Avenue. I remember when my father, mother, and I lived in a single room of occupancy apartment on 736 St. Nicholas Avenue, and one bathroom was shared by all the residents on the same floor. I remember Harlem when La Maqueta or Park Avenue on 116th Street was really a market with live poetry that you could buy. I remember Harlem when my pops and I ate a roast con pollo and habachuelas in a Puerto Rican restaurant on 116th Street and Lexington Avenue while listening to the Fania All-Stars on the speaker. Hector Lavoe was singing, "Oigan mi gente, mi gente."
I've known great men who've grown up here. They would tell me how the streets were made of music and how the buildings were painted in ebony soul. That's what they told me now. How these blocks went from jazz to soul to rap like a smooth transition between songs on a perfectly clean vinyl record. There's no cracking, no interruptions, no scratches. It just plays. It just goes on and on and on and on. And you have no choice other than to enjoy the sounds that it gives you. Like that was the Harlem I grew up hearing about. I mean, the Harlem of Langston Hughes, where the white folks were put to shame because they had to face the simple truth that there ain't no art like the art made by brothers and sisters with dreams bigger than this world could hold. I mean, there have only been 2 times called a Renaissance. Now, one being back in my dude Shakespeare's day when he wrote all the classics and people got all a new appreciation for art and all that. Well, at least that's what I was taught in history class. But I guess you can only take that with a grain of salt because the same class that taught me that the slaves were happy workers, they were the ones who taught me about Shakespeare. So I don't know. But you also have that other time. The other time was called the Harlem Renaissance. And that, man, is how I wish I were alive to see that. I mean, we went from picking the cotton to running the cotton club. I can almost hear the change still when I walk down the sidewalk. Like there's a flavor to it, a swagger that can't be replaced. But as the saying goes, change is inevitable and change will always happen, whether you like it or not, whether you ask for it or not, whether it's good or not. I mean, the more the world spins, the more things just change. And the things that once were flipped upside down and turned into something completely new, for better or for worse. I live in Harlem now, the place great men used to tell me about, a place that used to be made of music. And I still hear the music coming out of the coffee shops down the street, but there's an alternative band that has a loyal following, and it's a loyal following of white girls who after the show, they make their way down to the Chipotle to grab a bite to eat, take a left, there's a Red Lobster, and across from there, there's an American Apparel, America the Beautiful. I salute your way of gentrifying anything you can. I bet in 10 years, they're going to gentrify the gentrification. Let's not forget the Whole Foods, because if there's one thing Langston Hughes was dreaming about while writing all those stories, it was a place to buy overpriced organic products. You're welcome, Zora Neale Hurston. At least there's still the Apollo to remind us. Yeah, I'm about to have a kid now. I found out a couple of weeks ago. I don't know how to feel about it. Don't get me wrong, I'm excited. Hell, I'm ecstatic, but the world changes so fast and the block you lived on becomes a whole new planet overnight. Like, I want my child, my son or daughter to grow up knowing music, to know that there was once a place where feet were firmly planted and people who looked like us ruled the world for a brief period of time, at least. Because no one really seems to understand me when I said I'm talking about what I'm talking about. They just say, oh, it's time for you to start a business. It's a great place to start making a name for yourself. Start in Harlem, work up to Manhattan. I don't want that, okay? I don't think I want to do that, at least not right now. It's just not what I want. It's not what drives me, okay? It's not what wakes me up in the morning. Nah, what wakes me up in the morning is the smooth sound of the past. I see my great-grandfather in his big wool suit with a feather in his hat, rolling up to my great-grandmama in her day dress or flapper guard. You know, I bet Gatsby didn't have nothing on them. Those are the brothers and sisters who made the world turn, and I don't think I'm wrong for wanting it back. Like, I know change has to happen, okay? I know life has to happen. But maybe we'd be a little bit more happy, a little bit more together, if we could pull out a few saxophones, y'all, and just let the city sing us to sleep for a little while. Then we'll have kids who will continue writing notes to the songs. It won't necessarily change it. It'll just keep getting better.
Ms. Laura May comes out on a cane carrying a paper bag of peanuts. Billie Holiday's song, In My Solitude, is playing very low. She belabors herself from up the street and sits on the bottom stairs of her favorite spot on a brown stone stoop.
In my solitude, I sit and I stay. I know that I'll soon go mad. In my solitude, I'm praying, dear Lord above, send back my love. I sit in my chair, filled with despair. There's, hey, Miss Thompson, how you doing today? Yeah, I'm sitting in my favorite spot on your doorstep, same time every day. A Harlem habit is hard to break, honey. Oh, I know you don't mind this old lady taking up space here just watching Harlem go back and forth, just like it's been doing every year since I've been alive. Can I share some peanuts with you? Oh, that's okay. There's barely enough for me. But you know how common courtesy made me ask. Oh, don't mind me, honey. I know how to slide out the way should you get a visitor or something. Well, thank you, honey, for your consideration. Just imagine oh, besides, you got grandkids going to school down the street, and one or two of them just might pop up to visit their grandma, or at least they should. Let's hope so, honey. Or you can leave the window open while you cut your dinner, dear. Don't be like me. Fear being only remembered as a black old grumpy lady who died alone and who outlived anyone who might testify a heartfelt eulogy. I live in the penthouse off that fancy new building on 135th and St. Nicholas. But I don't feel comfortable till I come down to your stoop on 125th, on your stoops every day. I haven't been sick in 20 years, not even a sniffle. Of course, my circulation isn't as good as it used to be. My blood pressure is borderline. But I never beg God to take me from my pains. Oh, hey, I can almost hear the black folks marching up Fifth Avenue. Ooh, black women and well-dressed black children just marching. In fact, when I was just 17, when I joined Madam C.J. Walker's The Children's Silent Protest Parade in 1917, and you better believe that when colored folks were marching up Fifth Avenue here in Harlem for something all that the rest of this country's colored folks knew and approved it. Oh, can you hear them? Ooh. And in 1919, the black soldiers of the 360 Regiment Harlem Hellfighters marched triumphantly from their return in France up Fifth Avenue, and Mr. Marcus Garvey led his followers down Fifth to Madison Square Garden. Oh, now those were some glory days. Nobody's marching anywhere today. 125th Street just lined with books, videos, and sunglasses. Ain't nobody got time to protest for nothing. Things change, but then they remain the same. Sometimes. Oh, maybe I shouldn't even remember those days. I was young. One of them soldier boys came to sweep me off my feet, and my male child was born without the ring. Hey, hey, you up there, over there, or whatever. I'm not bothering you. You mess with me every day I come over here. What you messing with me for? I'm old enough to be your granny 5 times over. Better leave me alone. What? I'm entitled to be mean and ornery. My name is Miss Laura Mae Brown, and I just turned 104 years old, and I have lived in Harlem all my life. I love my children, Cecilia and Cedric, my favorite barbecue chicken, and New York cheesecake. I love Central Park, and I still have all my own teeth. Better leave me alone. Hey, youngsters always mess with me. I bet she listens to that damn Conway West with his Ain't Nothing But a Gold Digger. Or that Snoop Doggy Dogg with his Drop It Like It's Hot Stuff. The times and music change. I should know. I learned to like Charlie Parker and Laura. Oh, I wish I could have been Laura. Well, I have my Harlem memories to keep me company. I don't know why I sit out here and watch the world go by. I wonder. I was almost 45 when the world really hit me in my face. I had never wandered far from Harlem. The job as a black Rosie the Riveter at the Brooklyn shipyard put money in my pocket and dignity in my mind. So I thought. In 1945, I was feeling very, very old. I felt I was rushing past middle age. Even the iron dust from the ships couldn't hide the gray hairs. World War II was just about over, and I was making a whole lot of money towards the purchase of my dream brownstone up in Harlem. Oh, I was on my way. Then a black officer carrying a briefcase came in. He said, "Excuse me, are you Miss Laura Mae Brown?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Miss Brown, I'm Lieutenant Jackson from the United States Army Northern Command Department. And I regret to inform you about the death of your son, Cedric Jones. My country and I offer my condolences, ma'am. He gave his life in defense of this country. You should be very proud, ma'am. I wasn't proud. I was hurt. Then I thought that lots of Harlem black women gave that supreme sacrifice with their male children. That's what we did in Harlem. That's what we did. That young, that young woman over there, upset that this old lady is blighting up her neighborhood, sitting on a stoop, shucking peanuts. Sometimes that's just what we do in Harlem.
I remember Harlem when children had respect for elders. All elders were respected, and children had to put a handle to their name: Mr. or Miss, aunt, uncle, cousin, madam, or sir. This was showing respect to the elders in the village of Harlem. Growing up in that Harlem project, families from floor to floor and door to door were family. They believed in that old African proverb, "It takes a village to raise a child." The adults in the project knew each other, and the children listened to those elders, even if they didn't know them. They knew that respect was due. I remember Harlem when children were given weekly chores. It was the parents' way to train up a child, teach them to become independent, and prepare them for the world of work at an early age. I remember when parents let their children go to the movies after their Saturday morning chores were done. With $1, you could go to the RKO, Lowe's, Roosevelt, and Regun Movie House for 50 cents and buy popcorn and candy too. I remember those Friday night fish fries when families sold dinners. They had rent parties to help get those bills paid, and they also had Friday game night where they played cards for money until the wee hours of the morning. I remember Harlem when nightclubs was the thing. Baby Grand, Wells, Small's Paradise, the Savoy, Club Baron, and the Cotton Club. Some parents love to party, dance, and listen to music. They also love the famous Apollo Theater where stars are born. Growing up in Harlem was a time I will never forget because it was all about families in that Harlem project. Parents taught their children in a family way. Principles, morals, respect, a practice to use every day. We had some of the best times playing in those streets. Hopscotch, loadies, double dutch, and swinging in the swings. Sometimes fights broke out on the pavement of the city street, but the older kids made them talk, shaking hands and making peace. Another thing I remember is when those streetlights come on, all the children in the neighborhood knew it was time to go on home. I remember Harlem when.
And as I awoke, an archangel shout caught up in the hush, in the mist, in the middle of the air, in the circle of grace, in the center of the hungers that drive my dreams. It's there I found my own song, sitting in the middle of wonder and at home on the ground floor of heaven, Harlem. Splattering almond milk and honey at the corners of memory and desire. high up on Sugar Hill, a triple nickel and 2 doors past the elevators, I am a joyful noise in the middle of a bandstand, the surge of a riff, the girl singer's song. I was safe in the embrace of the bass, players who nicked rhythms and wit. I reside in the ride of the drummer's hi-hat. Ping. I sit in the sound. I sit in the sound. I sit in the sound of a people. Saxophones insisting, trumpets chanting, all the things you are. All the things you are at their fingertips. I am wrapped in the rhythms, the timbre and swing of it. I sit in the sound of forever. I sit in the sound of royalty, of dukes and counts, of pharaohs and monks and queens. The audacity of a Charles Mingus or David Murray, the thunder in the left hand of Mary Lou. I live in the sound of the lady, the church of Coltrane, the majesty of Armstrong. How great thou art, Tatum. Trios and duos, no nets and quartets. Heaven is between my ears. When Sarah Vaughan, the divine, one's near. Or Betty Carter, or Abby, or Carmen McRae. Heaven is between my ears. There's Cassandra, Carmen Lundy, Diane Reeves, the Horn of Jasmia, the complexities of Mary Stallings, Andy Bay, and little Jimmy Scott. Nothing could be finer than Miss Washington, Queen Dinah. Heaven is between my fears. When Gregory Porter sings, bullies change their careers. The lion and the lamb grab a beer. Teens stop texting. Folk get off of Facebook. They quit Snapchat and Solitaire, Instagram and Twitter, Xbox, TikTok, PlayStation, the whole damn World Wide Web, alcohol, gambling, credit card schemes, lying, cheating, stealing, burglaries and robberies, drugs, animal pornography, prostitution, and Candy Crush. I sit in the sound of joy. I sit in the sound of heartache and finding the courage to risk the one for the other. I sit in the sound of forgiveness and hard victories. The sound of longing, the sound of freedom, sweet, the sound of justice. I sit in the sound of random terrors and legislated hate. The sound of the bones, the dry bones. We can't buy Skittles. We can't sell water. We can't drive. We can't jog. We can't swim. We can't get lost and ask for directions. We can't play in the park with a toy gun. We can't kiki and drink wine on a wine tour. We can't be young and black and make a mistake. We can't sell CDs. We can't breathe. We can't breathe. We can't protest. We can't vote. We can't even go to the altar in our churches to take the sacrament in safety or to pray. I live in the sound of genocide, the psychic carnage, the butchery, the chaos, the decimation. And I sit in the sound of confusion and misdirection, in the sound of fear, dressed up and disguised as some kind of devotion, swinging metal pipes, burning tiki torches and running cars into people. Need to run down your misplaced fears. Need to run down the wealth gap and the income disparity. Need to run down racism. Need to run down xenophobia and your misogyny and homophobia. Need to run down climate change. Hello. But beloved, we reside in the ride of the drummer's hi-hat. We sit in the sound of resistance, trumpets chanting, saxophones insisting. We sit in the sound of resistance, the surge of a riff, the girl singer's song. We sit in the sound of improvisers, son, knitting rhythms and wit, wrestling intuition and intellect, and making something new. Reclaim our time. That's what they do. Musicians, converting the uneasy ugly into some kind of beautiful, with catgut and polished woods, skins and cane and maple, out of ivory, nickel, silver, and brass. Musicians give us back to ourselves. And that is some kind of wonderful. Ragtime and stride, I sit in the sound. Big bands and bebop, Dixie and swing, I sit in the sound. Latin and spirituals, field calls and work songs. Reggae, soca, samba and R&B, hip hop and doo-wop, the gospel, the blues, fusion and free. I sit in the sound. I sit in the sound. Piano, bass, and drums, the Holy Trinity. I sit in the sound. I sit in the sound. I sit in the sound, in the source of my power, because I sit forever in the sound of God.
Keep 'em uptown. Keep 'em uptown. Hidden behind starched shirts, black suits, decisions made white brand, Metropolitan Life Insurance mantra. Keep 'em uptown, near the river, 1947, in the shadow of dirty dumps and battered barges gliding by. Didn't we dance uptown? We proud people with strong backs and heads held high to the sky. Caribbean ancestors and Southern spirit forces watching our back. Indomitable spirits us on. Turned segregation around. Became a village, a home. Harlem, Riverton bound. Take me to the river, 1947. It was a moment. We were kept people in Harlem's embrace. Didn't need no integration. Wanted to be in the fat of it all, like a river of Wells chicken and waffles and a ton of Jenny Lou's neck bones. We be funky, like a monk tune, drenched in torrents of playground jive and lips touching sensuous like staircase moments. Dolly the King and Bobby the security guard talking trash down by the swings. Memories of pageants, May Queens, Rosella Lenoir. It was a moment. Carols of Christmas floating up in the air. A fantasy world encased in stop time rhythms. Ring a Levio, Lodies, marathon ping pong, bid whist, knot hockey, run, catch, kiss. Don't bring home no babies. Trying to be hip slick. We were all there, riding the blue train. Some for a moment, some for an eternity. Weaned on cleft tones, Cadillacs and Coltrane. Mellow tones of King Cole and bebop. Didn't we shuffle step to school with swinging rhythms in our stride as we playground boogie toward our dreams in dark corners of Girl Scout dances and blue lit rooms, dark, bodacious figures sweating, slow dancing to moon glows and heartbeats, a bump there, a grind here. Ain't mentioning no names now, because we were all there, bearing witness to stolen moments and grooving high. It was a moment. Rules and routine regulations, staccato like. Don't walk on the grass. Don't talk loud at night on the benches. Keep your shirt on in the park. Be a credit to your race. Man, take me to the river with conga drums, Thunderbird wine, rhythm fine, bouncing balls, basketball, kickball, handball, stickball, dirty pop Franks, Lonnie's, Newsom's barbecue, jute boxes where rock met roll, hanging in staircases, venerable to security guard trying to snatch shadows. Some carved out identities rooted in real time. Some took a dip, found scab and drag, and coke deferred dreams. Indomitable spirits us all. Harlem, riveting, where lives entwine, minds questioned, souls nurtured, futures forged with clarion call to make money, or give back to our people, or both. Leon, Raleigh, Gregory, Skip Abbott, Billy Bucks, Mitch, Kathy, Norma, Brenda, Tooney, Dave Evans, Lynn, Jimmy Collier, Russell, Butch Edwards, Chunky, Yvonne, Judy, Eleanor, Chips, Jeanette, JT, Ronnie Paris, Ronnie Myers, Forrest, Chris, Pat, Buddy, Harriet, Snooky, Sandra, Tony, Keith, Kenny, Diesel, Slug, Michael Stout, Michael Carpenter, Michael Davis, Clarence, Pitty Pat, Clayton, Gary, Skip Gunn, Sal, Frankie, Desmonda, David Clark, Diane. As memories dim, names fade into my heart's abyss, where time and space pause in a bittersweet mist. I see me, us, 1958, 2200, 2181 basement, your lips on mine, tongue to tongue, first time, sensuous, luscious, first time, a praise song in my heart. Keep 'em uptown, keep 'em uptown. Yeah, keep us uptown, riveting. Harlem, 1947. It was, is, always will be a moment.
Harlem changed. Ain't the same, but not dead like someone said. No good thing ever dies. Harlem still Harlem. Ain't dead. Ain't just an address anyway. It's a state of mind, a place inside. In our bones, Harlem is home, alive and living, breathing, vibrating, shining, creating. Harlem is a good thing. Here we birth new determination to overcome, witnessed our truth like never before in Harlem. Here we were fed when Malcolm spoke, veils lifted, chains loosed here, voices raised, hearts, hopes lifted here, ways made. Harlem ain't just an address, it's a place within. In us where we go and here to stay. In our bones. It's where we took a breath and said, bring it on, Harlem. Where we shook off down south Jim Crow blues, stood our ground for the next round, fearless against these up north migration blues. Our beauty busting open out of us, our light taking flight. We Renaissance, can't help but grow and glow. We waking, breaking cycles, still standing creative against all odds, still shaking it off, still hard. A place, our own place to shine and be shined on. We out of sight, still no place like it nowhere, still Harlem. Though others come, we ain't going nowhere. A mecca of Black excellence and creativity, Harlem still our sanctuary. Still, our story keep getting told. Harlem Bowl. Go ahead and get all gentrified. And yes, old men still sit in lawn chairs on Linux, talking politics, smoking cigarettes, telling the story. They say, good morning, good day to the sisters passing by. They be listening to R&B music, be jamming, filling the air as a brother with a boombox passes by. Diamond in the back, sun rooftop, dig in the scene with a gangster lean. Ooh. Some sing along, some can't help but dance. Some say only on Lenox Avenue near 135th Street, once known as the Pearly Gates. So for real, still, Harlem is like no other. It's a sanctuary at the crossroads of culture. Wherever we are is Harlem. Black, 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 black is the brilliance of Harlem. Is the beauty and boldness of Harlem, where we dare to wake and claim who we are. We waken. We every day still coming up roses in the concrete of brazen hate. Harlem lives, and here you come. And grandma gotta leave her home. Can't afford it no more. Cause here you come with Whole Foods, repairs long overdue, all kind of beautifying and rent gone too high. After grandma and Uncle Mitch still trying to figure out why and how this happened right before their eyes. For years, y'all scared to cross 110th Street. Now you're calling Harlem home. Yeah, Harlem changed. Ain't the same, but not dead, like someone said. Harlem's still alive. No good thing ever dies. We all here now. Still Harlem.
Spirits rise up. Saints hiss of yesteryears as my new millennium eyes pierce lightless windows in Harlem to peer into an invisible realm made visible by the closing of one's eyes and the opening of the heart. I can see slim brown legs caressed by coffee-colored hose stuffed in 5-inch open-toed shoes gliding across shiny wood floors, with red-nailed, pampered feet peeking out of her partner's black, polished, wing-tipped shoes. The bus I ride puffs by. Stoop salute, erect with pride, steeped in the glory of Harlem days gone by. Dignity adorns their aging facades. Their beauty pulls me into the world of now, transports me from the world of then to revisit old friends. On snowy nights such as these, fireplaces were lit. On 116th and Manhattan Avenue, I know I was there in a life before this. The memory of the soul is immortal. That's why I feel the glow of laughter and good times, rent parties and poetry, jam sessions and wakes. I remember Harlem of old. I remember frying chicken and the scent of fresh collard swimming in ham hocks. I remember dealing cards and drinking gin, sitting at the door collecting quarters to supplement the rent. Life lives here on 16th Street. Behind those dented doors and tinted up windows, it's not just a block of old blind buildings with boarded up eyes waiting to die. Yes, life lives here on 116th Street. For decades, souls have waited for me to acknowledge their existence. Amidst the quiet of a snowy evening in March, I walk through walls of the St. Nicholas Avenue bus, float through the blustery night to touch the pride and bathe in the glory of Harlem days gone by. Don't you see Zora peeking out from under? Her wide black hat as she always be in, and them pretty knees of hers, winking at all the brothers crossing their eyes as she crosses her legs so they can catch all they can. And ain't that Langston with his fine brown self? Ooh, leaning over Zora, pontificating about poetry. Spirits press forward to re-greet me. Their invisibility melts into my own like the now softly falling snow. Cleansing, cleansing, cleansing. And I remember 16th Street, and I too feel immortal, for I know that when I will myself to leave this physical plane, again, someone will pass where I once walked and danced, loved, smiled, sang, and was. And know that I lived and still live. Know that they too will never die.
I remember Harlem way back when, before white folks started moving in. Avenue to avenue, street to street, all you saw were Black folks living their lives in colorful motion way back then. You see, I was born and raised in Harlem, USA, and wouldn't have it any other way. It set my foundation, rich in cultural pride, self-esteem, and appreciation for the value of family and friends. Lessons that shaped the woman that I am. Lived in the St. Nicholas projects with my parents and Big Brother Kenny, who loved his little sister no matter how many times she worked on his last nerve, as most little sisters do. That's what Big Brothers did in Harlem way back when. Our foundation was set by our beautiful, wise, and compassionate parents, Clarence and Adrian Mitchell, who always opened their home and hearts to the neighborhood children. You see, way back then, they knew the best gift to give a child is your time and your love. The Mitchells were known for throwing us the coolest birthday parties where our friends danced the afternoon away to the music of James Brown, Chubby Checker, the Supremes, and the Super Bad Temptations, where the food was so darn good. Fried chicken, potato salad, and my mother's chocolate cake that melted in your mouth. Those were some good days. When I remember Harlem way back then, I think of all the rich and lasting friendships, like my first best friend, Reba Crump, who had the voice of an angel and always knew all the latest dance steps. He even tried to teach me a step or two with my no rhythm self. Where I met my brother from another mother. Malik was the first in our neighborhood to go to college and major in theater. Now, so many years later, is still one of my dearest friends. He is a jewel raised in Harlem way back when. When I think of Harlem, my heart fills with wonderful memories of the Harlem YMCA that housed the little theater that became my home away from home. As a teenager, I learned for the first time that God had blessed me with creative gifts to be nurtured and shared. There, I learned that I could be an actor, director, producer, and maybe one day become the artistic director of a theater company in Harlem named after my beloved mother, Adrian Graham Mitchell. Back then, we dreamed big and worked hard because we knew that dreams do come true. When I think of Harlem today, I realize more than ever how blessed I am to have grown up in Harlem, this most marvelous village of Black and brown people, strong people, hardworking people who struggle to make a better life for their children and their community. We are the fruits of our ancestors' labor, for they have set the foundation for us, rich in cultural pride, self-esteem, and resilience that can never be erased by gentrification in any form. I remember Harlem way back then.
I'm Roger Paris. And what I love about Harlem is the resilient rhythms of our people, whether it's children laughing and running in the park, or the summer basketball tournaments, or the jazz music coming out the clubs and from Jazzmobile. But what I love the most is the Black love that we have for our people that will always reside in my Harlem heart and soul.
Hi, my name is Laura Bowman, and I'm the author of 16th Street. And to me, Harlem is synonymous with home. And when I walk its streets, it just feeds me all the gifts of the ancestors and fills me up.
Hello, my name is Dr. Robert J. Woodbine, and I'm the author of I Remember Harlem When. And what Harlem means to me is a lifeline that nourishes my soul and spirit.
Edith Jason. Harlem means to me love, joy, connection, community, being, flying, freedom. Harlem is life.
Hello, my name is Chris Eli Black, and I wrote Langston Hughes in a Whole Foods. To me, Harlem is a symbol of the past that has passed us by, and the present in the sense that we still have a piece of its presence in the present. And for that, we remember the reasons we made it to this point in the street that made us, even if it isn't the same as it used to be.
My name is Marsha Khan, and for me, Harlem is a bold and incredible source of creative energy that feeds me spirit and soul.
Hi, my name is Nia Aikila Robinson, and what Harlem means to me is a place where rediscovery is infinite.
Hi, my name is Jerome Brooks Jr., and I'm the composer with music from I Remember Harlem When. Harlem means food, fellowship, religion, church, fashion. That's what Harlem means to me.
Hello, my name is Deborah Gray, but I'm affectionately known as Mama D. And to me, Harlem is everything. It's about family, extended family, and friends. Harlem has a variety of opportunities in the arts, dance, music, theater, poetry. All you have to do is take a chance. It's right here in Harlem.
My name is Defe Anderson, and Harlem to me is a haven when I can't really get home.
My name is Jamal Williams. I wrote the short piece called Harlem Memories. What Harlem means to me is that it means a lot of inspiration as a writer. So I'm using Harlem to inspire me with my other pieces.
Hi, I'm Michelle Baldwin, and Harlem means to me all the things that creatively happen in the universe.
My name is Janet Mitchell, and I am the Artistic Director of AGM Theater Company. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the wonderful artists who participated in I Remember Harlem When. Harlem means love, joy, peace, family, and community. Thank you all again, and we look forward to seeing you the next time.